A bad start doesn't mean a bad finish. A bad start does not decide the meaning of a life. It only marks the first page of a story still being written. We often believe that beginnings define destinies, yet time has a quiet way of proving otherwise. Every struggle, every mistake, every moment of doubt becomes part of a larger unfolding, shaping strength where there was once uncertainty. The human path is not a straight line, but a river that bends, breaks, and finds new directions. What feels like failure today may become the foundation of tomorrow's understanding. In the end, it is not how you start that matters most, but how you continue when nothing feels certain. Even the darkest beginning can carry a hidden light that only patience reveals. Every mistake is a lesson learned. We carry our failures like quiet echoes in the mind, each one shaping who we become in ways we do not always notice. In the silence after regret, understanding slowly grows, and pain turns into meaning. Nothing is wasted, not even the moments we wish to forget, because they shape our way forward with deeper awareness. We are not defined by the moments we fall, but by the courage to rise again with deeper wisdom. Every setback becomes a mirror, reflecting truths we once avoided. In time, even broken paths form a quiet kind of strength within us. We learn to listen more deeply to ourselves and to the world. We find peace not in perfection, but in growth. You only live once, so don't waste it. Time is not something that waits for anyone. It slips through us even when we try to hold on. Every breath is a reminder that life is happening now, not yesterday or tomorrow. Meaning is not found in waiting, but in daring to live fully while you can. We often think there will always be more time, but life moves quietly without warning. Moments you ignore today become ones you long for later. So choose with intention, feel deeply, and let your life be more than routine. In the end, it is not the length of life that matters, but how much you truly lived. Make each moment count, even the small ones that seem ordinary, because time never returns fully. Everything that happens for a reason. We search for meaning in moments that confuse us, believing chaos is empty, yet every fragment of experience shapes something within us. What feels random may only be unseen order, slowly revealing itself as we grow and learn to listen to life. Even in what is left unsaid, there is something shaping us in ways we do not yet understand. We do not always understand the purpose of pain while we are inside it, yet later, it becomes a quiet teacher shaping who we are becoming. Endings are never just endings. They are transitions into something we cannot yet see. Only in reflection do we recognize that nothing was ever wasted. Everything always transforms us quietly. Never put off until tomorrow what can be done today. Time does not wait for hesitation. Every moment carries a quiet urgency, as if life itself is asking to be lived now, not later. We tell ourselves there will always be time, but time is never promised, only passing. In delaying, we slowly distance ourselves from the life we could have lived fully in this very moment. Yet within action lies meaning. To choose now is to respect existence itself, to meet life as it truly is. Each decision taken today becomes a fragment of who we are becoming, shaping tomorrow before it arrives. Small actions create momentum, turning intention into reality. In this awareness, we find not pressure but presence. Don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened. Everything we experience is temporary, yet never meaningless. What we once held tightly becomes memory, and memory becomes part of who we are. Grief for endings is human, but recognizing beauty in moments is wisdom. We are shaped not only by what stays, but by what leaves and still lingers within us. Life is a collection of moments that never return the same way. When something ends, it does not disappear. It transforms into understanding, gratitude, and quiet strength. To be happy it happened is to accept that love, time, and presence are never wasted, even when they fade. And in that quiet acceptance, we find peace that lingers beyond endings. To win big, you have to risk big. Every choice that carries weight asks something from the soul, a willingness to step beyond comfort and into uncertainty where meaning begins to form. Fear is never a wall, but a threshold that reveals how much we truly desire what we chase when silence meets ambition. It is in risk that life reveals its deepest truth. When we step into that uncertainty, we discover that loss is not the opposite of victory, but its teacher. Every failure reshapes the mind, carving depth where certainty once lived, and teaching us that meaning is not given but earned through courage and surrender. And in that surrender, we find a quieter strength that does not ask for proof, only inner certainty. Time doesn't wait for anyone. It moves without mercy, carrying everything forward whether we are ready or not. We live inside its flow, trying to find meaning in moments that disappear the second we notice them. Nothing pauses for our understanding, yet everything demands our presence. We often believe there will be more time, but that belief is the quiet illusion that shapes regret. The past cannot be returned to, and the future is never guaranteed. All that truly exists is this fragile moment, asking to be lived fully before it becomes memory. In accepting this, we begin to understand that life is not something to control, but something to experience deeply while it passes through us. Always have hope for a better tomorrow. Hope is the quiet force that carries the human spirit through uncertainty, even when today feels heavy and uncertain. It does not erase pain, but it gives it direction, turning struggle into something that can still lead forward. In every ending, it whispers the possibility of another beginning waiting unseen. We live between what has been and what might come, and in that space, hope becomes our silent companion. The future is never promised, yet we choose to believe in it anyway. To hope is to keep walking even when the path is unclear, trusting that tomorrow may hold what today cannot. In that belief, we find the strength to continue and grow stronger within. The best way to defeat your enemy is to make them your friend. True strength is not found in destruction, but in understanding what once stood against us. When we choose connection over conflict, we transform what was once fear into something human and shared. In that shift, power becomes quieter, but far greater than before. We begin to see that enemies are often reflections of misunderstanding, shaped by distance and pain. To turn hostility into friendship is not weakness, but the highest form of wisdom. It takes courage to soften the heart where anger once lived, and in doing so, we do not only change others, but also ourselves in ways that last deeply and meaningfully and beyond all limits of the self. You can either face your fears and grow or run from them and weaken. The choice is yours. Fear is not an enemy that disappears, but a force shaping who we become depending on how we meet it. When we step toward it, even trembling, we discover parts of ourselves only struggle can reveal. Growth is not comfort, but transformation born from resistance. When we avoid what scares us, we do not escape it. We carry it in silence, letting it shrink our world over time and slowly shape our limits. But when we face it, we reclaim something deeper than confidence. We reclaim our direction. In that moment, fear becomes a doorway, not a wall, and life becomes something we shape instead of something we endure. Everything works out in the end, and if it hasn't worked out, you haven't reached the end. Life rarely unfolds in a straight line. It bends through uncertainty, loss, and moments that feel unfinished. Yet even in confusion, something unseen continues to move forward, shaping us quietly in ways we only understand later. We often mistake endings for failure, when in truth they may only be pauses in a longer story still forming. What feels broken today may simply be a chapter still in progress. To trust the journey is to accept that meaning is not immediate, but revealed over time. And in that patience, we learn that nothing is truly lost while the story is still being written, ever unfolding within us now. No matter what you do, someone will judge you, so do what makes you happy. Judgment is something that follows every step we take, yet it often reveals more about others than it does about us. If we live trying to escape it, we slowly lose ourselves in the process of pleasing everyone but our own hearts. What truly matters is not the noise of opinions, but the quiet truth of how we feel within. Happiness is not found in approval, but in alignment with who we really are. When we choose ourselves, even imperfectly, we begin to live with a kind of honesty that cannot be shaken by outside voices. In that space, life becomes lighter, and we finally start belonging to ourselves completely now and always. Do not wait for the right time. Make it. Time is not something that arrives on its own. It is shaped by the choices we dare to make in the present. Waiting often feels safe, but it slowly turns life into something postponed, as if we are always standing just outside our own existence. We are not meant to live as observers of our future, but as creators of it. Every moment carries the possibility of change if we are willing to act instead of hesitate. The right time is never given to us. It is born when we decide to move despite fear and uncertainty. In that courage, life stops waiting for us and begins to unfold through us instead, with meaning, presence, and quiet strength that shapes who we become. You can only save those who want to be saved. There is a limit to how far we can reach into another person's struggle before we realize that healing must also be chosen from within. We can offer light, but we cannot force someone to open their eyes to it. In that space, we learn the painful truth of human boundaries. To care deeply does not mean to control outcomes, but to accept that every soul walks its own path, toward or away from change. Sometimes love is not saving, but understanding when to step back. In that acceptance, we find a quieter strength, one that respects both connection and distance, knowing that true change begins only when it is welcomed from within, slowly and honestly over time. No matter how many times you fall, always stand up. Falling is not the end of a person, but a silent reminder that movement still exists within them. Each fall carries a lesson hidden beneath pain, shaping strength in ways comfort never could. What matters is not how often we break, but how often we choose to rise again. In every rise, there is a quiet decision to continue becoming. Life does not reward perfection, but persistence through imperfection. To stand up again is to refuse to let moments define the whole story. And in that refusal, we slowly build a deeper resilience, one that is not loud or proud, but steady enough to carry us forward through anything we face and endure with time and growth. Don't ever let anyone tell you you can't do something. Words have the power to shape doubt, but they do not define what is possible within you. Every voice that tries to limit you becomes part of the resistance you must learn to rise against. What feels impossible is often only unfamiliar, waiting to be stepped into with courage. We are not built from the limits others place on us, but from the moments we refuse to accept them. To believe in yourself is not arrogance, but quiet defiance against everything that tries to shrink your potential. In that defiance, we begin to discover that strength is not given but chosen, shaped each time we decide to keep going despite what we are told and believe within. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Difficulty is not a sign of impossibility, but a reflection of meaning. What challenges us the most often shapes us the deepest, carving strength into places comfort could never reach. The harder the path, the more we are forced to meet ourselves honestly. We are drawn forward not by ease, but by what demands something greater from us. Hard things are meant to test the parts of us that comfort leaves untouched. Struggle becomes proof that we are reaching beyond limitation, instead of remaining where everything feels safe. In that effort, we begin to understand that growth is born through resistance, persistence, and the will to continue despite the weight of hardship. Not everyone can become great, but greatness can come from anywhere. Greatness is not born from status, perfection, or the place someone begins in life. It often rises quietly from struggle, from unseen moments of persistence, and from people the world never expected anything from. What matters is not where we start, but what we continue becoming through every challenge we face. The human spirit carries a depth that cannot be measured by appearances or limitations. Some of the strongest souls emerge from pain, failure, and circumstances meant to break them. In that journey, greatness becomes something human, shaped not by privilege, but by courage, resilience, and refusal to stop growing despite life's weight. Where there is light, there will always be shadow. Nothing in life exists in isolation. Every moment of clarity carries its opposite, reminding us that balance is part of existence itself. Light reveals truth, but shadow reveals depth, and together they shape how we see the world and ourselves. We cannot choose only brightness without also meeting the darker parts of life. Yet even in shadow, there is meaning waiting to be understood. It is in this contrast that we learn who we are, not by avoiding darkness, but by learning to move through it with patience and awareness. In that understanding, we begin to see that both light and shadow are necessary parts of becoming whole within life itself. The path we seek isn't always straight. Life rarely unfolds in the way we imagine it, yet every turn carries something we are meant to learn, even when it feels confusing or unfair. The uncertainty of the journey is not a flaw in it, but part of how it shapes us into something deeper and more aware of ourselves. We often wish for clarity, but growth is found in the moments where direction is unclear, and we are forced to continue anyway. In those spaces, patience and trust become our quiet guides. And as we move forward, even without certainty, we begin to understand that the path was never meant to be straight, but meaningful in every twist it takes along the way, shaping who we become and how we endure. The hardest battles create the strongest people. Struggle is not meant to destroy us, but to reveal the strength we did not know existed within us. In the moments when everything feels heavier than we can carry, something inside begins to transform quietly, shaping resilience out of pressure and pain. We do not become strong in comfort, but in resistance. Every challenge forces us to meet parts of ourselves we would otherwise never discover. And through that process, we are changed in ways that cannot be undone. Strength is not the absence of struggle, but what remains after we have faced it fully and continued anyway, carrying forward everything it taught us about who we are becoming and what we endure. You can't add days to your life, but you can add life to your days. Time itself is not something we control, but the meaning we give it is entirely in our hands. Every moment passes whether we notice it or not, yet how deeply we live within it determines what remains in us after it is gone. Life becomes fuller not through duration, but through presence. When we choose to feel, to notice, and to truly exist within each passing moment, ordinary days begin to carry something extraordinary. In that awareness, we understand that living is not measured by time itself, but by how much of ourselves we place into the time we are given, before it quietly slips away into memory and becomes part of who we are. The most difficult thing in life is to know yourself. We often search far beyond ourselves for answers, yet the deepest mysteries are hidden within our own thoughts, emotions, and contradictions. To understand oneself is not a single discovery, but a lifelong process of facing truths we sometimes avoid. We are shaped by experiences, memories, and emotions that constantly shift who we believe we are. In that complexity, clarity is not always immediate. It requires honesty, reflection, and the courage to look inward without turning away. And in that quiet confrontation with ourselves, we slowly begin to understand that knowing who we are is not a destination, but an ongoing becoming that unfolds through time. The end isn't the end, just a new beginning. What we often perceive as closure is only a transition into something we cannot yet see. Every ending carries within it the quiet formation of something new, even when it feels like loss or finality. Life rarely stops. It transforms. We struggle to accept endings because they feel like emptiness. But in truth, they are spaces where change begins to take shape. What is gone makes room for what is coming, even if we cannot yet understand it. In that in-between space, we learn that nothing truly disappears. It only changes form, guiding us gently toward another chapter of becoming, where meaning continues in new and unexpected ways and is always within us.